Hey guys, it's Maylani Hawk from Why Not Me Academy. I'm really excited about this two-part series that we did. We actually mixed it up a little bit and we did it as a live Q&A where we invited speakers from across the country to ask questions right directly to a speakers bureau and also an event planner to ask those questions that you might have as a speaker, how to get paid speaking on stage. And these are two amazing resources. The first one is Dia Star Rank. And then we also had Rachel Cosby, who is an event planner, and she has planned events for one company, over 4,000 live events annually. And then some of those events had over 5,000 people in attendance. She currently works with Jesse Itzler, who is the co-owner of the Atlanta Falcons and husband to Sarah Blakely. And she's booked names like Magic Johnson, Eric Thomas, Rob O'Neill, and dozens more. So these are two amazing resources. We really hope you enjoy it. We're so grateful for their time. And yeah, if you have any questions about working with a speakers bureau or with a booking event planner, this is going to be super helpful. So definitely make sure you see both of the two-part series. Enjoy. So here is Rachel Cosby. She works, let's see, she's an event planner for a company that hosts, now was this 400 plus? How many events annually do you guys do?
Yeah, so my previous company was 4,000 plus events a year.
4,000 things a year. Mm-hmm. Holy cow. I was like, is that a typo? No, 4,000 events a year. She organizes and books national speakers for events with 5,000 plus attendees. She currently works with Jesse Itzler, who is the author of Living with a Navy SEAL, co-owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and husband Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx. And Rachel has booked speakers like Magic Johnson, Eric Thomas, Rob O'Neill, Diana Nyad, and dozens more. So I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here, Rachel. We've got some good questions to get going, but first off, will you give us a little bit of your background and how you got into the business and what you're doing on now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, everyone. So just a little bit of background about me. Said, I have been doing events for, well, sorry, my audio is going in and out. So if you can't hear me, tell me, because internet here, everyone's on a virtual event today right now. So I've been doing events for 10 plus years now, starting out with smaller events around like 50 to 100 people. Then I've been doing events for about 5,000 plus attendees. My recent company I work for, we do more experience type of events. So from renting out a whole camp or a whole stadium, things like that, where people just kind of have physical challenges, endurance challenges, or like a conference type setting where we bring in speakers as well. So pretty wide range of all the speaking and all the different events I have. So I'm happy to help and give you guys any insight on booking speakers.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's start on the basics. Like, how do you find your speakers? Do you use bureaus, or do speakers reach out to you, cold call, or through referrals, or all of the above?
Yeah, so all of the above, really. When we sit down and we start to book our speakers, and it depends on if it's going to be a keynote, meaning like a headliner, that would be like obviously a celebrity or things like that, or just really content heavy, someone that's going to provide a lot of value to the event. We sit down, I sit with the owners of the companies, and we see what is a message that we're wanting to fill, what hole are we wanting to fill here. So basically I look for referrals. So if someone's seen someone speak on a certain topic that had a really good stage presence, was really interactive with the crowd, we use that. I also use speaking agencies as well sometimes. If it's kind of a higher celebrity, harder to book type of a person, we'll definitely use speaking agencies. I also just kind of DM directly sometimes to the speakers, and I've been pretty lucky with some of those as well. Just go directly to the source. They sometimes have their assistants or their PR manager reach out to me then, and we negotiate the deal. But all over the place, that's kind of how I find and start getting connected with each speaker.
Awesome. At the beginning, for speakers who are kind of new, since you said that about the assistants, what if they don't have an assistant? Is it going to make them look like they're not a professional, or is that okay? Or should they pretend to be their own assistant? What do you say to that?
That's a great question. No, I don't think so at all. Especially, I don't think so at all. I don't think it looks unprofessional for you to, if it's something like Instagram and I've sent you a message on Instagram and you're reaching out to me, and normally the next step will be like, hey, can I get your email so we can just start emailing back and forth, information about the event. I don't think that looks that at all. I think especially with speakers that are starting out, we expect that. And I actually like working directly with the speaker sometimes because you can just kind of get the questions answered. You don't have to go through an assistant and then have to answer all the questions. So I think that's an understandable thing. And I actually like working directly with the speaker. A lot easier.
Awesome. Okay, so what are the biggest things you look for when you're trying to decide between a speaker? What are the biggest things you look for?
Yep, absolutely. So the main thing I would say I look for is, what is your message? What is your mission? What do you stand for? So, if it's a certain topic, like if we're looking for a mindset speaker, there's a ton of mindset speakers out there. So recently, I would say probably a couple of years ago, I would just Google the speaker, look on their website, see, the About Me section. What is your mission? What do you speak on? What was your background and how do you have this knowledge to offer? Nowadays, I will probably go straight to your Instagram account and look at what kind of content you're putting out to your followers. I want to see consistent content. I like to see, basically, if I can scroll through your Instagram or your website and get a message of what you're actually trying to say and what you speak on and what you teach on, that'll be the easiest decision right there. As long as I can understand what message you're providing and if it matches the topic that we're trying to fill in our event.
That's awesome. I have a selfish question. So what's your opinion on being a public speaker? On my Instagram feed, anybody who knows me knows I've got like a gaggle of children. I've got 5 kids who I love and I love to share because I feel like that's part of who I am. How do you feel about that? Like bringing your personal lifestyle in with your Instagram? Should it be 2 separate feeds, or is it okay to have it kind of intermixed? And what's the ratio, would you say?
That's a great question. I think I look at, for instance, I work with Jesse Itzler. When he brings his kids, and he gets booked for speaking gigs all the time, he brings his kids on and it helps him look more human and more relatable. And so in that ends, when you're a celebrity, when you're, just a higher end speaker, you've been doing it for a while, you're well seasoned. I think bringing the kids and things like that on eventually and occasionally is in showing your lifestyle. It just shows you who you are. It shows your values, and it just kind of helps you be human. I would say starting out, I would probably be more apt to just seeing more consistent content. So for instance, if you speak on, I'm just going to use the topic, mindset, upgrading your mindset or something. I'm going to look at your posts and making sure those match what they are. Are they your quotes? Are they, consistent with the same graphic each time? Does it look really clean and professional? Do you have any videos of you speaking? Because that's very, very helpful. I like to see how the speaker interacts on camera, the stage presence. You could definitely see that through just a social media video and things like that on their feed. So I would say at first, if I'm looking at a speaker, I would like to, since I'm just quickly going to their Instagram page, I would just kind of like to see, what is your content? What are you providing? Here's some videos, and mix it up too. Make videos, make quote posts, just something that's going to show your audience what you stand for and what your message is.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the quote posts, because when I first started doing it and I would like use quotes from like my different speaking things or different things, my husband's like, that's so weird. Like, you're supposed to quote like famous people and stuff. Like, I was expecting to see like Mother Teresa or something at the bottom. And then it's like, it's you. Like, are you supposed to do that? So let's talk about, like you said, having those quotes on there. You're talking about your own quotes as well as using other people's quotes, but branded. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You can totally use other people's quotes. It's just whatever just think about something your post is giving out content that day for someone. If it's someone else's post, and then obviously people write in the comments what their story is behind it or what their lesson is behind it, that's totally fine. If it's your quote, awesome, that's great. It's just something that I can like look at a quote really quickly and be like, oh, this is what their message they're standing for. This is what they're going with here. I mainly look at, I listen to a lot of videos too of like what messages you're putting out there. I'll give you an example. For instance, we were booking Marissa Peer. I don't know if anyone's heard of her. We just booked her for an event last year. And I had never heard of her, but Jesse, for instance, saw her speak on a stage at another event he was speaking at, and he really liked her stage presence and thought she was really amazing. So he's like, oh, we got to get her. So I went directly to her Instagram page, and I had no idea what even topic she spoke on. So just to get that feeling of what she's on, I went to her Instagram page. She makes video content. She makes, just posts, like quote posts and things. So it's really good. You can really grasp what she is, what her message is, just by going to her Instagram. And then obviously I'll go put a link to your website in your Instagram page as well, because that's the next thing I go to is what's the About Me section. And once I kind of get engaged, I kind of want to know what more the speaker has to offer.
This is awesome. And so you would say Instagram is like, you're using that, like that's your platform, your go-to, your number one.
Yeah, I think as of right now, I think it's the easiest platform to visually get who you are out. I don't necessarily use Facebook as much. Not that Facebook is not, you want to obviously keep up so it's consistent.
Right.
However, it's easy for me to go to Instagram. It's just the way it's laid out. There's all these tiles. I can click on one, see what the message is. I can listen to this video, and then, there's a link to your website right there. That's the only reason it's just easier right now to do a search.
Yeah.
Because most people do have their Instagrams up and updated.
That's awesome. Okay. What are the biggest turnoffs when you're looking for a speaker? What is like, never mind, cross them off the list?
Great question. So I would say my biggest turnoff, I was thinking of this when you gave me this question earlier. I was trying to think, what is my biggest turnoff? Like I had to really think about what makes me go, nah, next, and start searching.
What makes you swipe left, swipe right?
I would say if they're I know. What I would just say, gosh, I wish there was an app for that for speakers. That was a great message, very vague, very broad, meaning like, there's a lot of people out there that have a very big following, and they say all the right things, but it's like, where is it going? What can our attendees walk away with? So if it's not deep, if it's not something that's going to stand out, I would say, I'll put you on the maybe list, but it's not something I'm going to go after right now. So I would just make your message at least direct, just easy for us to understand what you're going to teach on.
Okay. So along with that question, we had a question in the chat of if like and I'll use me as an example. Actually, I'll use Jen because she put it in here. So Jen she speaks from stages, but also she runs a mastermind. Is it a turnoff if those are all on the same website? Should she also have one for her personal speaking, or is that just a tab on her website?
I would just say that's a tab on her website, because I think if I'm going to go there and see that you're running other events of your own and you're holding another mastermind, I think that actually helps you because it gives you more credibility, it gives you more experience. You're holding your own events, things like that. So I think that's just another, a speaking tab, because it's about you, it's who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. And some of these examples that we've been putting in the chat throughout are great, and I will email them out afterwards, guys. Okay, so as for your personal experience with working with speakers, how much can you actually negotiate before, as an event planner, that you're like, this person's too high maintenance? Like, is it like Tijuana getting a nice purse, or is it like, this is my flat rate, don't negotiate?
Yeah, I think you just when you're first starting out, you definitely need to be a lot more flexible. Like you, the speaker, needs to be a little bit more flexible on your fee, on your requirements. Um, just because now, if you're obviously, whenever I've booked, looked into booking, Richard Branson, Mark Cuban, things, people like that. They're going to be able to say, this is our fee. And even those are somewhat negotiable sometimes if you have something else to offer and things. So me as an event planner, I will try to negotiate things, but those people have, status, and they're going to be like, no, this is what they take. Cool. Flat rate. Got it. Take it back to the owners. Yes or no.
Yeah.
When you're kind of the middle ground, just starting out speaker, I would say start with your fee, with what you actually ask for up front. Start, because the worst they can say is no, come back to you with a counter offer. I don't work, but definitely be welcome.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so what is the craziest demand you've ever had from a speaker? Like green M&Ms or anything like that? Have you had? You don't have to tell us who
Oh
it's
yeah.
if you can't. But like, what's the craziest thing?
Yeah. It's definitely from more of a performer that we had, and it's funny. I've worked with a lot of different people, and they have actually, surprising. I've been really lucky to come across really cool people, like super easygoing. They don't need even a green room. They're just go on stage. And then I've worked with, my craziest one was they had a list of things. They wanted lobster. They wanted certain types of M&Ms and candy, a certain type of Pellegrino. I've had to order white Hanes t-shirts, white socks. Like I was just like buying them clothes, and I'm like, I'm not really understanding why you need this, but then you're a writer. It's what we agreed on.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
also the writer is, I've also learned in my experience, the writer is negotiable as well. I mean, as an event planner, can push back and see how willing because they're gonna, whenever you get to a certain status as speaker, they're gonna be pushing them. Some people, not all, will be pushing the event promoter to the limits
Yeah.
of what can I get out of this, and
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay. So
But yeah, that was probably my craziest. That was one person requesting.
oh, that's funny. Okay, so what are like normal things to negotiate though that you wouldn't be turned off by negotiating that you see a lot? Like let's say, especially for the beginners of getting started, what isn't okay if you can't really quite make that fee that you wanted? What are other things that you see negotiating?
Okay, you were kind of breaking up a little bit that, or where that could have been mine, but I think you just asked if what other things besides your fee you can negotiate, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So absolutely. So especially if, I think someone mentioned earlier, if you're if you have a list to build or a following to build, I would, and let's say either negotiate your fee down to, a lower amount, but then counter offers like, okay, yes, I'll take that fee. However, I would like you to be okay with me offering this free product or this free something, so I can basically gather people's emails and get their contact information from that event. Just something on that though, as an event planner, don't ever assume it's okay for you to collect names in a list and emails. I would just say, as a professional courtesy, ensure that's okay for you to do with whoever you're working with on the event side, because a lot of people, companies spend a lot of time and effort and money in bringing in these people to their events, and they don't necessarily, sometimes it's not so kosher for you to just go in and collect their list without their permission. Most people will let you do it, but most people will be like, here, text 33777 to this number, and then that helps you collect their numbers, their email addresses. Just make sure it's okay with the event promoter, but that's a huge plus if they let you do that, because you're just collecting a following right there, and then you can follow up with all those people later on in an email campaign, and things like that.
That's a great one. That's a really good one. Okay, what is an appropriate follow-up with an event planner for a speaker to follow up asking for referrals or testimonials or anything like that?
Yeah, I think you can ask for that anytime. If a speaker asked for me for a testimonial or a referral or anything, I would easily get it. Now give, the event planners a little time, because most of the time they're moving on to their next event. They're super crazy. But I've given video testimonials, I've given referrals, written testimonials, things like that. That's definitely not inappropriate. I think everyone from the event business knows everyone's just trying to make a name for themselves and get as much references as possible. So I think an email follow-up afterwards, or sometimes it's okay if they find out if the event company is recording the event, and put that in your contract as saying you want all of the recordings of you from stage. That way you have free media of yourself and free marketing video of yourself, because that's super easy to release, just to give you the video of you speaking. And then you could even ask them to do a testimonial on site if they have time.
Oh, that's a great one. That's really good. All right. We have a couple more questions. If there's any more questions, make sure you're writing them in the chat, because I know that we're trying to wrap up here soon, but so write them in the chat. But what would you say if you have an advice? Like, this seems to be most of this group is either is just getting into the business, or does 30 a year or something, but still kind of new in the business. So what advice do you have for them as speakers, all of us, just in general, especially during this crazy time of coronavirus? But what would you say?
Yeah, especially during this time on coronavirus, I was just thinking of this and chatting with some of my event buddies the other day. Coming out of this, as we start to book events again, and as we start to book our speakers again, we know it's going to be the speakers that are consistently on the road speaking. They're not going on the road right now. So I would be super flexible with your fee. As an event planner, I know I will be pushing the fee down a lot just to help save our event money. I know that probably the speaker needs some business. So just kind of now, not saying it won't go back up. I would just be aware of that right now. Especially if you're starting out, offer to speak for free at an event. Like I said, I know that's kind of, or at least with your travel paid. I think that, you should at least get your flight paid, your hotel paid for one night. And then, speak for free if they're like, oh, we just need, and then ask for that more creative and more flexible with fees once we start having live events again.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can't harp on that more. Make sure your social and your online presence, it looks professional. Your about me section is filled out and it's very engaging. I start reading about me section within the first sentence, 2 sentences, and that's what gets me, or that makes me move on to something else. So like they said previously, now's the time to kind of work on all that, because everyone has some downtime. So really think about, what is your social media, what does your Instagram page look like when you just go to it on your own? When you go to your personal, what does that look like? Does it look messy? Does it look professional? Does it look clean? Start putting out content out there so people can understand your message, and make sure your website is clean and easy to contact you, because that's another thing. Is like, okay, so how do I get a hold of this person? I want them now. How do I get a hold of them?
Oh, these are great. Awesome. Okay, this was awesome. Any last questions for Rachel before we let her go? All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Rachel, thank you for giving us the time to be on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.